We are learning that federal agents are conducting several raids at Popular Valley sports bars.
Federal investigators have raided Rudy Giuliani's New York City home and office.
You can see those federal investigators are here right now at this storage facility, and you can kind of see those blue tents that are there.
500 stolen vehicles, 37 shell companies, over $12 million laundered through used car lots, wire transfers, and shipping containers bound for the Horn of Africa. This is not a story about a car theft ring. This is the story of how a sophisticated criminal network turned Minneapolis, Minnesota, into the staging ground for one of the largest transnational auto trafficking and narcotics pipelines ever dismantled on American soil. Federal authorities are calling it the most complex hybrid smuggling operation uncovered in the upper Midwest in more than a decade. And what agents found inside the walls of a family-owned dealership on Lake Street didn't just expose stolen cars. It exposed a network so deep, so protected, and so well-funded that it had compromised law enforcement officers, customs brokers, port officials, and at least one senior city administrator. If you think this is just about cars, stay with me, because what comes next will change everything you thought you knew about organized crime in America's heartland. It was 4:17 a.m. on a Tuesday morning when the first teams moved. Minneapolis, Minnesota. The fog sat low over the Mississippi, curling around the bridge pylons and settling into the parking lots of industrial Northeast like a gray wool blanket draped over a sleeping city. The streets were dead. Not quiet, dead. The only sound was the low hum of idling engines 3 blocks away, where a convoy of unmarked federal vehicles waited with their headlights off. FBI ICE Homeland Security Investigations, DEA Tactical Units, SWAT, 46 agents in total, divided into 4 strike teams, each assigned a separate target within a 6-mile radius. Strike Team Alpha hit the primary location first, a sprawling used car dealership on East Lake Street called Horizon Auto Group. The lot held maybe 90 vehicles under sodium lights, everything from late-model sedans to high-end SUVs. The showroom glass was dark, the office lights were off, but thermal imaging from a drone circling at 300 feet showed 4 warm bodies inside a back office that didn't appear on any building permit. The breach was textbook, flashbangs through 2 side windows. The front door came off its hinges with a hydraulic ram. Agents in black tactical gear poured through the frame like water through a cracked dam. Inside, 4 men scrambled. One tried to shove a laptop into a floor safe. Another grabbed a duffel bag and bolted toward a rear corridor that led to a loading bay. He made it 11 feet before a SWAT officer put him on the concrete. The duffel bag split open on impact. Inside were not car keys. Inside were vacuum-sealed bricks of cash totaling over $340,000 and a secondary pouch containing 900 fentanyl pills stamped with a logo that DEA analysts would later link to a Sinaloa cartel distribution cell operating out of Columbus, Ohio. At the same time, Strike Team Bravo hit a warehouse in Brooklyn Park. Strike Team Charlie breached a residential property in Eden Prairie that neighbors had always assumed belonged to a quiet family. And Strike Team Delta executed a search warrant on a shipping logistics office near the port of Duluth, 2 hours north, where containers marked as agricultural equipment had been departing from Mogadishu and Bosaso every 6 to 8 weeks for over 3 years. In that Duluth office, agents found falsified export manifests listing vehicle parts and used farming machinery. What was actually inside those containers were stolen luxury vehicles, disassembled and stacked with military-grade precision, along with hidden compartments welded into the frames. Those compartments held cocaine, not small amounts. Agents recovered 14 kilograms from a single container that hadn't shipped yet. Across all 4 locations that morning, federal teams seized 23 vehicles confirmed stolen, $1.2 million in cash, approximately 6 kilograms of methamphetamine, the 900 fentanyl pills, and more than a dozen encrypted phones and hard drives. But the real discovery came from the back office of Horizon Auto Group. Behind a false wall accessible only through a concealed hydraulic panel, agents found a climate-controlled server room. Inside that room were 3 rack-mounted servers, a commercial-grade document printer loaded with blank customs forms, and a laminated organizational chart pinned to the wall with over 60 names, routes, and account numbers written in a mix of English, Somali, and Spanish. Investigators stared at that chart for a long time, because at the very top, connected by a red line to every major node, was a code name. Not a person's name, a project name, Operation Lighthouse. By 11 a.m. that morning, the servers were inside a secure FBI cyber forensics lab at the Minneapolis field office. Analysts began peeling back layers of encryption that had been applied using commercially available software modified with custom protocols. What they found was not a car theft ring. It was an empire. Operation Lighthouse was the internal name for a smuggling and laundering infrastructure that had been growing for at least 5 years. At its core was a network of 37 shell companies registered across Minnesota, Ohio, Texas, and Virginia. Some were auto dealerships, some were logistics firms, some were registered nonprofits claiming to provide immigration assistance and community development. The money moved in circles designed to dizzy anyone trying to follow it. Cash from stolen car sales was deposited into dealership accounts in small amounts. Those accounts paid invoices to the logistics firms for fictitious shipping services. And the logistics firms transferred funds to the nonprofits as consulting fees. The nonprofits wired money overseas to accounts in Dubai, Nairobi, and Djibouti, where it was converted, layered again, and used to purchase legitimate goods that were shipped back to the United States to start the cycle over. Within the financial web, DEA analysts identified narcotics revenue streams that dwarfed the car operation. The Sinaloa cartel connection was not incidental, it was structural. The ring had negotiated a supply agreement. Stolen vehicles heading overseas provided the physical pipeline. Narcotics came back through the same shipping lanes using the same brokers and the same falsified manifests. Fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamine. The partnership was elegant in its brutality. On two criminal economies feeding each other through a single logistics backbone. And then the analysts found the name at the top. Not a cartel boss, not a gang leader. The digital signature authorizing the highest-level wire transfers and the master export schedule belonged to a senior Minneapolis city official. A deputy city administrator named Abdi Giel, a man who had spent 12 years in public service, sat on 3 oversight committees, and had been publicly praised for his community development work. His encrypted authorization key was embedded in every major shipment order. His personal email, routed through 3 proxy servers, contained direct correspondence with cartel logistics coordinators in Culiacan. This was not corruption, this was command-level collusion. A public official had not merely looked the other way. He had architected the pipeline, shielded it with political access, and turned a network of community-facing businesses into the most efficient smuggling corridor between the upper Midwest and East Africa. And the operation had barely begun to unravel. At 5 a.m. the following Thursday, a joint federal command center activated inside a secure facility at Fort Snelling, just south of Minneapolis. On the wall, a massive digital map pulsed with 41 red markers spread across Minnesota, Ohio, Wisconsin, Virginia, and Texas. Each marker represented a confirmed node of Operation Lighthouse. The mission was designated Federal Operation North Star. Over 600 federal agents from FBI, ICEHSI, DEA, and CBP were deployed simultaneously, 18 SWAT teams, and 4 Black Hawk helicopters providing aerial overwatch, armored tactical vehicles positioned at 12 high-risk locations. In Minneapolis, agents hit 9 more auto lots, 2 residential compounds, and a community center that had been converted into a communications hub with satellite uplink capability. In Columbus, Ohio, a DEA strike team raided a distribution warehouse where they recovered 47 kilograms of cocaine and approximately 2.1 million fentanyl pills pressed and packaged for street-level sale across the Midwest. In Houston, Texas, ICE agents intercepted a shipping container at the port that held 12 stolen vehicles and hidden compartments containing 8 kilograms of heroin. In Duluth, the Coast Guard and CBP boarded a cargo vessel and discovered a modified hold designed to conceal up to 30 vehicles per voyage. Across all locations in a single coordinated day, federal forces seized over 160 stolen vehicles, $9.4 million in cash and assets, over 300 kilograms of mixed narcotics with a street value exceeding $40 million, and arrested 78 individuals including alleged ringleaders, logistics managers, financial handlers, and street-level operators. The underworld lost more ground in 9 hours than it had in the previous 9 years of incremental enforcement. But the most devastating findings came not from the raids themselves, they came from the servers. As federal investigators cross-referenced seized patrol logs, internal city emails, and customs brokerage records, a shadow network inside the system itself emerged. 14 law enforcement officers across 3 states had been receiving payments routed through the nonprofit front organizations. Some were patrol officers who adjusted their routes on nights when stolen vehicles were being moved to staging lots. Two were customs officials at the port of Duluth who had systematically approved falsified manifests without inspection. One was a county judge in Hennepin County who had dismissed charges against ring members on 3 separate occasions using procedural technicalities that investigators now believe were coordinated in advance. The cartel had not just infiltrated the community, it had infiltrated the institutions designed to protect the community. Now, honest officers within the Minneapolis Police Department described learning the truth as a wound that doesn't bleed on the outside. One veteran sergeant, 22 years on the force, sat in a federal briefing room and said nothing for 11 minutes after seeing the list of compromised colleagues. He finally said, "I trained 2 of those guys. I vouched for them." Federal agents arrested a senior police liaison officer, 2 patrol supervisors, and a records clerk who had been altering vehicle theft databases to remove entries matching cars destined for export. What investigators described was not just corruption. It was a parallel enforcement structure, a second invisible police force that existed to protect the pipeline, warn of raids, and ensure the network operated without interruption. The system would be rebuilt, but first, every badge in that system had to be re-earned. As analysts mapped the full scope of Operation Lighthouse, the picture expanded beyond anything the initial raid teams had imagined. The network's shipping routes connected Minneapolis to ports in Virginia, Texas, and Louisiana. From there, containers moved to transit points in the UAE, Kenya, and Somalia. The operation could move approximately 40 stolen vehicles per month without triggering automated customs alerts because the manifests listed items exempt from secondary screening. Way stations along key interstate corridors in Minnesota and Wisconsin had been shut down for scheduled maintenance on dates that precisely matched convoy movements. Agricultural inspection waivers filed by one of the shell companies exempted certain shipments from random checks. And the narcotics flowing back through the same channels were distributed through a network of small retail operations, barbershops, phone repair stores, and hookah lounges that processed microtransactions impossible to flag individually, but collectively moved millions in drug revenue per quarter. The final file recovered from the Horizon Auto Group server room was labeled LH-2030. It was a 5-year expansion plan. The document outlined the acquisition of 6 more dealerships across the Midwest, the establishment of a private freight brokerage to control shipping logistics entirely in-house, and the placement of allied individuals into 3 more city government positions through campaign funding routed via the nonprofits. The plan did not merely describe growth, it described permanence. And a self-sustaining infrastructure designed to outlast any single leader and operate for decades as a shadow economy embedded inside legitimate American commerce. The system had not been infiltrated. The system had been redesigned from the inside to serve the network's future. Power does not always arrive with violence. Sometimes it arrives with a business license, a handshake at a community fundraiser, and a shipping container that no one ever opens. The human cost of what Operation Lighthouse enabled is not abstract. It is counted in the fentanyl pills that reached high school parking lots in St. Paul. It is counted in the families who lost someone to an overdose and never knew the drugs traveled through a used car lot 6 miles from their home. It is counted in the stolen vehicles ripped from driveways while people slept. Turned into instruments of a machine that cared nothing for the lives it consumed. But the forces it describes, the intersection of transnational crime, political corruption, narcotics trafficking, and institutional betrayal, are not fiction. They are the architecture of a threat that operates in silence, thrives in complexity, and depends entirely on the assumption that no one is paying attention. If you are still here, if this story kept you watching to the end, tap like so more people can see it. Comment expose if you believe these stories need to be dragged into the light. Share it with someone who thinks organized crime only exists in border towns and foreign countries. Because sometimes, the most dangerous operation in the country is running behind a plate glass window on a street you drive past every single day. Stay aware, stay informed, and never stop asking who profits from your silence.